But now we're going to get down to all the business about that game, all the matchups with our man, Tim McManus from ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. Timmy, what's going on, man?
Hello, Amy. How you guys doing?
Hey, Tim.
Couple days away. Big game tonight, too, on Thursday Night Football, so I'm fired up.
Oh, man, this is a good time of year, and I just love the Eagles' schedule. I mean, I'm sure fans would wish maybe it was a little easier. It's not the easiest schedule in the world, but week after week, you're just going to get a real solid matchup that we get to discuss and pour over, and obviously this is a huge one with the Super Bowl rematch on tap here.
So let's get some of the injuries out of the way. I know you just left the NovaCare complex. What do we got in terms of Eagles injuries?
Yeah, so Will Shipley was on the sideline, and Dallas Goedert was absent from practice. So those are the two headliners, Goedert being number one. So this is 2 days in a row, Bill, where he hasn't been out of practice because of a knee injury. Doesn't feel like there's a lot of optimism around that situation right now for this Week 2 game. We'll see how it goes as this week transpires, but obviously significant. And then with Shipley also not participating, it opens up an opportunity for that number 2 back spot. And we know Tank Bigsby was acquired pretty recently here, and he's thrown into the mix. He's been out of practice. So those are two big ones. Landon Dickerson is at practice. And it's kind of crazy. Like, he's just a few weeks removed from that meniscus surgery on his knee. And he doesn't even have like a sleeve on the leg. It's unbelievable. But he's been dealing with that back injury as well. So obviously something to monitor, not just on the injury report for the rest of the week, but once the game starts. He had to leave the opener against Dallas, and you just hope it's not like a Jason Peters situation where he's in and out of the lineup, every week.
Yeah, Tim, earlier we heard from Vic Fangio, and he was, I know you were there. He was point blank asked, is Adoree Jackson starting? And that was Tuesday, and he said, as of right now, yes. Not the most ringing endorsement you've ever heard, but it's almost like he needs to see something else. And I think he alluded to the fact he didn't see enough in the limited time, the snaps that Jacorian Bennett got to maybe move him into that. So that's got to be something, because Fangio, and I think you just can't count out Patrick Mahomes, he still believes they have that deep ball threat. What are they doing as far as how that secondary is going to operate, knowing the fact they've got Patrick Mahomes back there, and he is a magician?
Yeah, I had the same reaction to Fangio's comment there, Amy, where he's not even committing to him being the starter this week.
Right.
Tells you everything you need to know. And the cornerback 2 spot has been in the spotlight ever since the beginning of basically the training sessions for the Eagles. And that hasn't gone away. And, even though the Chiefs could be down a couple of receivers, we'll see what happens with Worthy. He was apparently on the practice field for the Chiefs today. Even if they are kind of restricted with their weapons, you still know with Mahomes and with Andy Reid scheming up the plays that they're going to find every opportunity to expose vulnerabilities in the Eagles secondary. And let's face it, Adoree Jackson was one of them. According to the Next Gen stats, he allowed over 100 yards receiving. He missed 2 tackles. He had the pass interference in the end zone. And so that's a trouble spot. And I do think that if he stumbles, that you're going to see Jacorian Bennett sooner rather than later get inserted into that lineup. And then safety, even though I think from most people's observations that Drew Makuba seemed like he acquitted himself pretty well, Fangio didn't see it that way. He said he did okay, and that there were a couple major busts, the way that he called them, that hurt them and could have hurt them even more. So I don't think that even if the Chiefs wide receivers are kind of decimated here with injuries, that you can just take Patrick Mahomes lightly, especially when you kind of come limping in from a secondary perspective.
We're talking to Tim McManus of ESPN, who covers the Philadelphia Eagles, talking to him on the Comcast Business Hotline. All right, Tim, let's talk about that Chiefs defense for a second, because you look at the last 2 seasons, the way they got to a Super Bowl was really on the back of their defense, really good defenses. What are you seeing from them early this season? I know it's only been 1 game, but are they going to be as dominant as years past?
So they had a tough opener against the Chargers. Herbert looked really good. And you're trying to, with just a limited sample of information, figure out, okay, is that more the Chargers? Is that more Herbert? Is that more the Chiefs taking a step backwards defensively? I think one thing that we can say is that they were missing Justin Reed. He is now with the Saints, and it was Jaden Hicks who filled in mostly for him. And according to the metrics, he allowed 2 touchdown passes. And so maybe, there's another Devontae Smith dagger in his future. I think that the Eagles can take advantage of the deep ball in that respect, and we know that Jalen Hurts, as he showed in that pass to Jahan Dotson in Week 1, so good with the deep ball, and I think that they have some ability there. That being said, I touched on Dickerson earlier, and the Chiefs still have Chris Jones, and he's going to be in the middle of that defense, and it's going to be a really good test, I think, for Tyler Steen, who I thought did well in Week 1 against Dallas, and Dickerson, who's been ailing, to see if they can hold up in the interior, because if they can't and that sort of crashes in, then obviously the guys on the edge can work their magic a little bit too. So I still think fundamentally it's a good defense. I mean, they have solid players, or above average players at all three positions, all three levels, I should say. And I wouldn't just equate a down performance Week 1 to say that this is a totally vulnerable defense. Although there are some areas I think that Philly can take advantage of.
Speaking of take advantage, Patrick Mahomes certainly takes advantage of the rules about the quarterback, no touchy, don't touch me, don't look at me, I'm going to fall down.
Hate it.
And that's Bill's biggest thing, but he takes advantage of it, and it's the rules. We saw the Eagles being very uncharacteristically undisciplined in a major way in that Cowboys game. Obviously, it's something they addressed this week. Nick Sirianni's talk about staying back disciplined and focused. But knowing you have a guy that can take advantage of the rules as the way that they're set out. He can lower his shoulder, he can run out of sidelines, and then all of a sudden scat up for another 10 yards because of the way that everything operates. How much are they trying to really kind of walk that line to still be aggressive, but at the same time, you don't want to get caught taking unnecessary penalties with, roughing the passer?
It's a great point to bring up, because I think walking the line is a perfect way to put it, Amy. No, I don't feel like this Eagles team wants anybody to get the impression that, they're in a defensive posture just because they're the champs. I think they want to take it to them. I think they want to have this aggressive mentality of no, we're not the hunted. We're going to be the hunters. And so, that factored into my thinking when I'm reassessing sort of what happened Week 1, where they came with an absolute edge, and it was too much. I mean, clearly, with what Jalen Carter did, and then, given what the new rules are, what Nolan Smith did, and all that sort of stuff. But you can't back down, and you're certainly going to want to match the energy of the Chiefs. You have to imagine, after they got throttled in the Super Bowl, and then they admittedly did not come out with enough energy in their Week 1 game against the Chargers in Sao Paulo, that they're going to be so revved up for this game. And the Eagles are going to have to match that. But it's going to have to be on this very thin line of, we're going to be physical with you, and we're not going to back down from you, and we're going to match your energy. But we're not going to do it to a point where we get all these flags like we did against the Cowboys. And so, Fangio addressed specifically with that Mahomes thing, where he is very good at doing that acrobatic thing right along the sideline, trying to draw you in, and he can flop and the whole thing, and maybe he gets star treatment. And so that's something that's like a fine sort of thing to thread if you're a defense, especially going up a star player like Mahomes. And so, they're just going to have to be sort of on that edge of make sure they're bringing the fire, but not too severely.
All right, Tim, real quick, 2 predictions from you before I let you go. 1, who wins on Sunday? And then our overall question today was, which combination is more likely to win another Super Bowl? Is it Hurts and Sirianni, or is it Reed and Mahomes? I need predictions on both.
Man. So the first one, when I was coming into the season, Bill, I was like, that's a loss for the Eagles, just because of the things we just talked about. Like, they're going to want to get their get back in a pretty big way. But then watching the respective teams perform, I don't know, Kansas City is going to have enough juice ultimately on offense to take care of it. So I'm leaning Eagles right now. In terms of who has a better chance to make it back, I think the Eagles do right now. And that's a big bet against obviously a star-studded group led by Andy Reid and Mahomes. But Philly's got its own thing rolling here, and it seems like they have the right mentality. And I think that if I were picking one of those teams this year to represent their respective conferences, I would go the Eagles right now. So I'm gonna have to land Philly on both of those fronts.
Yeah,
all right, we love it, Tim. We appreciate the time,
Tim.
my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Always my pleasure. Talk to you.
All right, there he is, Tim McManus of ESPN. He'll be joining us every Thursday at 3:25. Always does a great job. What's up, everybody? It's Bill Colarulo from Unfiltered with Ricky Bo and Bill Colarulo. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we post a ton of content. It's not just what you hear on air. We're posting content all day long. We do some things before the show, after the show, even stuff during the show. So subscribe, like, do whatever you got to do. We got all this content coming to you every single day.